Yo, 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 what up, immortal jellyfish? It's your boy Snazzy J here, back at it again with another list video. So, top 10 attractions at Universal Studios Florida as of January 2020. Let's get right the blast into it, just cut right to the sandwich, get right up in there with the potatoes. I've been known to make these intros longer than they have to be, so I'm just gonna come right out and do it. Now, I've been considering a change in the format of putting the honorable mentions as the first thing I say, and then get to the top 10, as opposed to putting them between number 1 and number 2. But since I didn't get any feedback on that idea yet, I'll do it, in Watch Mojo fashion, 10 through 2, honorable mentions, then number 1. But let me know in the comment section if you think I should switch it up and just get the honorable mentions out of the way first, and then just do the top 10 list. Anyway, let's go. Top 10 attractions at Universal Studios Florida. I would like to note that there are a few, well, the main one specifically being the Terminator, which was terminated in 2017, I believe. It is no longer part of the park, but that would have definitely made the list for sure. Let's see, Twister, I don't remember that too well. Disaster was pretty cool. That probably would have made the list, actually. What else isn't there anymore that would have made the list? Yeah, that's about it, I guess. But yeah, just shout out to those. You can't experience those anymore. Anyway, here we go. All right, so I'm giving the number 10 spot to Shrek 4D. I mean, Shrek, of course, has become a cultural phenomenon, but they didn't really know that at the time. I mean, it opened, I believe, right around the same time the first movie came out, which is the 2001 era, I believe, somewhere in that general ballpark. So, I don't really know what to say about it. I haven't seen it too recently, so I'm not sure how well it holds up. The last time I saw it was like maybe 3 years ago. So, hey, whatever. Maybe I'll think it sucks now. I don't know. I've never had a problem with it, really. I've never disliked it. It's not like a standout attraction. Like it's not a must do at the park. But it's all right. It's fine. One thing I do like, though, is in the queue, and possibly visible from outside the queue, waiting to get into the pre-show, they have all these, like, jabs at Disney and stuff, and parody joke things and everything, and I think some of those are pretty clever, so that's one thing I give them credit for. And then the pre-show itself, I mean, there's jokes in it, and there's, they have a live person on there that's as like loosely quoting a script and everything, and they add their own kind of style of humor into the mix. And then the show itself, of course, the seats do move a little bit, nothing too wild or anything, but it's still, it adds a little extra sprinkle, to the show. So, and it's decent length too. It's like a 10-minute pre-show and then like a 20-minute show. So, it's 30 minutes, and then however long the wait is, it's going to be at least like 40-45 minutes, even if you have the express. So, it gives you something to do for a while. So it's not a complete waste of time. You should see it at least once if you haven't already. So yeah, that's number 10. Number 9. This is kind of a controversial pick. I'm going to Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon. I was considering not putting this on the list because I'm like, yeah, you know what, But I decided, what, I don't really care what the ride is. It's just about, did I have fun? And after all, that's what the list is about. It's the top 10 funnest attractions at Universal Studios. That's what this is all about. So, these are in the order of how much fun did I have. So, this one isn't brand new anymore. It opened in, I think, April of 2017. So, it's about 3 years old now. So, I went on it when it first opened, and then I think once since then. So I've been on it, I believe, twice total. The second one being only a few months later. So the last time I was on it was in 2017. So it's not fresh in my mind that I remember it that well. But I do remember, I mean, I think it's kind of different. The ride itself isn't really too spectacular. It's basically like Despicable Me, but just more for all ages instead of just kids. But it's a little bit better than Despicable Me. There's more effort put into it, but it's still like it's just a stationary ride that's just in front of a screen. But there is a little more. No, now that I think about it, there's a little more effort put into it. But it's nothing. I'd say the ride itself is about equivalent to like the Simpsons ride in terms of effort. I think that's fair. But I think what's more impressive is the non-ride portion. So you have the building. It's recreating the NBC studios because NBC Universal, tired of the bark on a tree. So you go into the building and they give you this card. I'm trying to go back 3 years to when I was on the ride. They give you this card, and it's like a different color because like the NBC logo. There's 6 different colors. So there's like, I'm not sure if they either have 6 different color waiting rooms or no. It's when your color glows, then you proceed. You go up the stairs into the main waiting area because there's the downstairs area that's basically like an NBC museum. Yeah, it's like an NBC museum basically. So it's like the Walt Disney One Man's Dream at Hollywood Studios queue, but for NBC. It's like, here's a picture of the first camera that NBC used back in 1912 or something. I don't know. There's just like all this kind of stuff. And so then, you have your card that's one of 6 colors on the NBC logo, and it makes like a noise, dun, dun, or something. I don't know. And then, when your color goes, you go up the stairs, and then there's the main waiting room upstairs where they have it's like a big lounge area, and they got all these like touchscreen miniature games that they created, which it's kind of cute. It's nothing too like over the top or anything, but it's it's pretty fun to pass the time as opposed to like most of the rides when you stand in line. There's not really much to do. You're just kind of standing in line. But with this one, you're not even standing. You're just sitting, lounging around. I forget. They might even have like soda or something. I don't remember, but you feel comfortable. They have like couches and lamps and everything, and you feel right at home. And then they have like even like little show times. There's like a stage in the waiting area. Sometimes they have like a choir come out or like a comedian or something. And then they also have, when you get real close to the ride, they have like the screen with like the safety information and stuff like that done in a thematic way and everything. And then they have a pre-show after that. And then there's the ride, and then you exit to the gift shop and everything. So it's a pretty elaborate process, and you know what? I'm gonna go so far as to say I was impressed by it. If the ride was a little bit better, this would definitely be in the top 5. And like I said, opinions aside, because I'm not the biggest consumer of mainstream the comedy shows or anything like that. So obviously I'm not the #1 Jimmy Fallon fan or whatever. I don't really know much about the show, but I don't really think you have to. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things in there for the fans, but even if you're not, I think there's still enough to enjoy. Because it's more just NBC in general. So, and I'm not even the biggest fan of NBC, if I'm going to be honest, but I just appreciate what they're going for. So, yeah, that's the number 9 pick. All right, number 8, I'm giving to the Universal Orlando Horror Makeup Show. It's a great show. My main complaint with it is that it's pretty much the same thing every time, more or less. There are slight differences. Obviously, it's a different volunteer each time, so you have like a little variable there. But for the most part, it's the same script, the same jokes. They do change it up, like maybe every year or so. They'll like replace a joke or update one or something like that. But for the most part, it's really the same thing. But if it's your first time seeing the show, you're gonna love it. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but it's the horror makeup show. So they go through like it's kind of somewhat educational, but it's more really comedy. It's about like how the history of Universal horror movies and the makeup that they use and the different technology and stuff like that, the props and whatever, the gimmicks and all that, and they demonstrate with the volunteer, and so if it's your first time seeing the show, you'll love it. I still see it every once in a while. It's not something I insist on doing every time we go to the park, just because it's pretty much the same thing every time. but it's still fun. So I don't really know what else to say about it, but that's my number 8 pick. Oh, fun fact. It is the only show that was open on opening day of the park back in 1990 that is still there 30 years later. All right. Number 7 is the Simpsons ride. So this one isn't very popular with, the crew that I go with. But, I like it. Like I said, the ride itself isn't really that impressive, but it's just, first of all, the whole theming of that themed area in the park, Springfield, USA, is incredible. I mean, we're talking like Harry Potter levels of detail and intricacy. Just the theming in like the Universal theming department is just mind blowing. They got it down. You actually do feel like I'm, walking through the animated world of The Simpsons, which is really incredible because it's one thing if it's like a live action show, you can just kind of recreate the location, for the set. But if it's animation, you have to like make a physical version, a life-sized physical version of a drawing, basically, of something that, so it's all the more impressive if you could do it for an animated show. So yeah, I think just the land in general, and I'm kind of factoring that in because it's the same theme. The Simpsons ride, obviously, great comedy, great style. I also really like the name. I think it's very thematically appropriate, just The Simpsons ride, because Universal has a tendency to overcomplicate things or give things names that are too long or something like that. So I think it's a prime example of them having a perfect, straightforward title that's not lazy either. It's thematically appropriate. So enjoy that. It's just an all-around solid experience going on the ride. There's a lot of rooms you go through. There's like 3 different pre-show areas. And the queue's really nice to look at. There's some parts that get a little boring, but for the most part, there's always something to do or look at or listen to or something. And like I said, I'm factoring in this as the land as a whole. There's just so much stuff you can do there. You can get a Flaming Moe or a Krusty Burger, or you get like Duff Beer, and you could go to the Quickie Mart. It's just really everything you can think of from the show. It's there. And the ride just really ties it all together because that was there since like 2007 or something, well before the land was even a thought. So it's really yeah, I like it. It's a fun ride. It's nothing like state of the art, groundbreaking technology or anything like that, but it's fun to go on every once in a while. And I always have a good time with it. So that's why it's the number 7 pick. All right, number 6 is going to be Men in Black, Alien Attack. I really love these competitive rides, these point-scoring rides, some more than others. My favorite being Toy Story Mania, because I'm really good at it. Men in Black, I'm good, but not the best. It's better than Buzz Lightyear. I don't know what it is about Buzz Lightyear that I can just never beat whoever I'm against. But Men in Black, Men in Black's like hit or miss for me. But as long as you get that bonus at the end, if you're the first one to press the red button, you're usually good then. But I'm factoring it up until that point because that's just luck. Basically, it's just reaction time. But before that, it's actual skill of knowing which targets to hit and getting the timing right and all that. But yeah, this is another really fun one. It's nice and long too. It's like 6 to 7 minutes. It's one of those rides. I mean, it spins. It's basically, if you've never been on it, it's like Toy Story Mania. Obviously, it's an older version of that because it's an older ride. I don't know when exactly it opened, but if I had to guess, probably around like 98, 99, somewhere between 1998 and 2002. But yeah, it's neat. I've only been through the standby queue once, but there's definitely a lot more in that one than the express. There's like like an elevator you go into with that one, but it's a fake elevator, of course. Or actually, it might be a real. No, that's just for the handicap. the fake elevator, and there's like the employee that like sets the scene for you or something, and then there's like an automated message that plays. None of that happens in the Express. So again, I'm trying to remember things from years ago. But yeah, the Express just cuts right to the sandwich. There's like an informational, educational thing playing at the beginning. One thing about this one that's interesting is that you actually have to go down to get to the ride from the entrance. So you enter in the second floor, basically, kind of like the land at Epcot or Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom. You have to go down stairs or an elevator to get to the ride. And yeah, the ride is just, I mean, it's a point scoring ride, so it's just it's Men in Black themed, so they're all like aliens and stuff like that. There's narration every once in a while, like, oh, you gotta get them all, or, you gotta you zap away their sharpshooters or something, whatever. But yeah, it's just about accuracy and timing and skill, just knowing which ones are worth more points than others and everything like that. And there's also some spinning sometimes. It's not like overkill with it, but there's, it happens once in a while. And then there's a decent amount of spinning there at the end when you press the red button. But I don't want to give too much about the ride away. I think it's a neat ride. I get really into the competitive ones, obviously, so it's pretty hard to be bored on this ride, which is why it's so high up on the list. Other than that, if it wasn't competitive, it would still be a solid ride. I guess it would be probably like a dark ride then. And it would still be alright, but I think because it's competitive, it deserves a spot this high up. So that's number 6. Alright, now into the top 5. We're getting serious here. Can you guess what my top 5 are? Pause the video and find out. Alright. Number 5 I'm giving to Revenge of the Mummy, the ride. Yes. This one, yeah, it's a real good ride. Indoor roller coasters are a dying breed. Of course, when I think indoor roller coaster, I think like the Rock and Roller Coaster at Hollywood Studios is a true indoor roller coaster. Revenge of the Mummy is a hybrid ride. So the first half is like a slow kind of ride, like a dark ride, and then the second half is more like a roller coaster. It's more like a roller. Yeah, okay. So for this one, is this the first one so far that there's lockers for? No, Men in Black has lockers. But yeah, Revenge of the Mummy, there's lockers to this one. It's a new area now, too, because I remember the lockers used to be right in front of the entrance of the ride, and it was always a big inconvenience there. It was such a narrow passageway to get to the lockers, and then they go around to go to the Express. It was always a problem, but they moved them now to their own little corridor there where they're not in the way of anything, so that's great. But yeah, again, this is another one. I've only been in the standby queue probably twice, both of which were a couple years ago, and there's significantly more in that one, but it's nothing too elaborate like in Men in Black or anything. It's just kind of more of the same. It's just the same thing as the Express, but just like longer, basically. But I mean, they put a lot of effort into it. It's the theming is great, especially for 2004, and they were probably working on it for a few years before that. But like the hieroglyphs from it, I believe, actually like translate to real things and everything. It's supposed to, the theming is like a tomb, so there's all kinds of like stuff from that. It's very dimly lit. There's like carvings on the walls and everything. So it's basically like a Poseidon's Fury type of aesthetic. And then yeah, the ride itself, I think it's neat how they do that with the hybrid. They don't really utilize screens, so that that's good. But yeah, it's just it's a really fun ride overall, and yeah, it's a hybrid. I think that's a tough thing to tackle. So I greatly respect them for that. There's the different rooms you go through. I memorized the entire script of the ride. The ones that I memorized the script to were that and Spider-Man, and I'm sure many more. But so yeah, so it's a really fun ride. Highly recommended. Very highly recommended. It's a great ride. I hope they don't get rid of it anytime soon. Unless they're replacing it with something better, I guess. But just not another screen ride. If you want to do like a full-on roller coaster, I guess I'm on board with that. All right. Number 4, Fear Factor Live, my favorite show at Universal Studios. This one's always fun, always entertaining. It's just the right level of being the same every time and being different every time. There's some things that you can count on, the formula's the same, but the actual things are kind of different. There's some of the stunts that are there most of the time, and sometimes they just like cut things inexplicably, so like it's supposed to be like a 40-45 minute show, but sometimes it's only like 30, so, or whatever. But they're real volunteers, but one thing I think is kind of interesting is that the volunteers need to show up 75 minutes before showtime. What do they spend those 75 minutes doing? Is it like training? Like, that's interesting. I might be down to do that, and then see, what that's all about. Get a t-shirt or a mug or something. But yeah, so it's a really fun show to watch. It's always, very exciting. Pulse pounding, keeps you at the edge of your seat. It's fast paced. It's not like hyperactive though, like some of the shows, where it's geared toward like kids and it's just kind of nonsensical and whatever. But it's fast paced. It's good for all ages, and it's it keeps your attention. So, and it's pretty impressive, and it's real people. It's relatable. They're not like. It's not Indiana Jones where you just have like, the people, or a Festival of Lion King or something where it's like that's their job and that's what they do. Basically, the only people that are like that are the hosts, the narrators and stuff. But yeah, so I guess if you've never seen it before, how would I describe it? It's like a stunt show, I guess. I never watched the actual Fear Factor show. I don't know how many people did. Honestly, I don't know why it's still there, because Fear Factor hasn't been relevant for a long time. So I keep hearing that they're going to get rid of it and everything, but it's still there. So that's fine by me. I haven't seen it in a while, actually. But yeah, so Fear Factor Live. All right, bringing out the big guns now. Number 3. And this one might surprise a lot of you. Transformers the Ride 3D. What? Gasp. Oh, Joshua, what? How could you like that ride? That's like, didn't you say you don't like those screen rides and you don't like things that are just kind of hyperactive and geared toward children and everything? Like, all right, well, let me tell you something. This ride is like Spider-Man on steroids, and I happen to like the Spider-Man ride. I think it's neat and it's got a charm to it. This one is Turbo Spider-Man. It's Transformers. Yeah, it's like Spider-Man. It's like the Spider-Man ride, but better, basically. And should they both coexist at the same time? Maybe not. But if one of them, if only one of them can stay, I'd say it should be Transformers, because it's an objectively better ride. Anyone who thinks Spider-Man's better is just saying that because of nostalgia, the memories associated with it. Spider-Man is older technology and everything. Transformers, yeah, it's like if the Spider-Man ride were to open today, except it's themed as Transformers. I'm sorry, I really wish I wasn't obligated to put it this high on the list. It's kind of my guilty pleasure at the park, call it, but I just really enjoy the ride. I don't know how else to say it. It's entertaining. It's immersive. It's very immersive. It's just a really fun ride to go on, and I just have a lot of fun on it. I enjoy seeing the elevator sequence, because it's a 2-story ride, so and everything. At least it's not like a ride like Despicable Me, the Simpsons ride, or the Jimmy Fallon ride, where it's just a stationary car that, like, on a little bit of hydraulics, just looking at a screen. This one actually has a track. It's like Spider-Man. But yeah, it's fun. It's gripping. It's engaging. It's immersive. It's a really good time. I think I don't know how else to describe it. I just keep recycling the same adjectives. But if, just sticking with one, it would be fun. It's a very, very fun ride, at least for me. And I know, you know, I'm not supposed to like it, but who cares? It's fun. All right, so I'm gonna put it at number 3 because I think it deserves it. Because you know what, I just had that much fun on the ride. So Transformers the Ride 3D, number 3, nice. Transformers the Ride 3D, it's a number 3 from me. Okay, number 2, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. It's basically The Mummy, but better. And this one does utilize screens. I forgot about that for a minute. It's 3D. Well, it takes a page from The Mummy's book as far as the ride goes. But this one, obviously, I'm blown away by the theming. It's incredible. It looks just like the set of the movies with Diagon Alley and everything. So I'm taking that in consideration too. The building, you know, you go into Gringotts Bank. You have that opening, that first room you go into, the lobby there is just like, you just get blown away there. The animatronics are, what are they, goblins, I guess? They're so realistic. They look exactly how they did in the movies, and everything, right down to the chandelier, the style, the patterns on the floor and everything. Like, it's all exactly from the movie. It's amazing. And I just love it. It's a great grand finale because of its location in the back of the park, so you have a nice leisurely walk back, and it's kind of grand seeming, you know. It's a great grand finale for the day. You know, you have the pre-show, the elevator sequence and everything, and then the ride itself, which, you know, it's listed as a roller coaster, but it's not really. There's one drop, and it's not really that intense. But it's a higher speed than most of the stuff at studios. And yeah, so it's a 3D ride that got screens and everything, and it's the whole Harry Potter crew and everything, although the theming's kind of, I feel like Warner Brothers kind of made them change the story, like, because it doesn't follow the story of anything that happens in the canon Harry Potter universe at all. But, hey, whatever, I'm not complaining. That's not my department. It's the ride fun is what I care about, and it certainly is. It's really, really fun, and were it not for the number 1 pick, I can totally see it being number 1, because it's a great grand finale ride, and it's my go-to to get in, you know, right when the park's about to close. Keep in mind, though, there are lockers, so if you have, like, a bag or something that's going to need to go in the lockers, get there 3 or 4 minutes early so that you can get that taken care of first. All right, so let's blow through honorable mentions here. We're in a time crunch, per usual. E.T. Adventure, I like that ride. My favorite thing about it is the name portion, because yeah, my mother and I, when we go, we take turns thinking of increasingly comedic names to give them that are, they're usually like old-fashioned names. Like, we gave them like Hector and Agatha one time. We did like Oscar and Irma another time. Like, names that, like, you've probably heard before or sound like something that might be someone's name, but just realistically, do you have a friend with this name? Like, it's still kind of funny. So that's my favorite part about that. But just the ride itself, it's cute. You know, it's neat. You know, for a kid, I think it's pretty fun. Fast and Furious Supercharged, I wasn't going to give an honorable mention, but I'm just going to get this off my chest. The ride sucks. There's nothing really redeemable about the ride. It is, yeah, the ride completely blows. But everything until that point, I mean, the queue is so-so. I think they kind of, like, spammed their deck of cards there with, like, it's a mechanic's garage. All right? So this room's a mechanic garage. What's the next one? No, the whole thing. It's just a mechanic's garage. That's the whole, oh, all right? You know, so it's kind of underwhelming. But, you know, they do that room pretty well, but my complaint is that one room takes up the entire queue. But I think the thing that really makes it deserve an honorable mention are the 2 pre-show rooms. I like the pre-shows, and the actors have creative freedom there to just kind of wing it and do whatever they want with it. And it's hit or miss, but when it's a hit, it's really good. So I'm going to give it to that just for that. Universal Cinematic Celebration, not nearly as good as the Cinematic Spectacular or whatever the last one was called, but it's still it's all right. So it's an honorable mention. Also, Halloween Horror Nights, another thing I wanted to talk to. I was there once, like 2 or 3 years ago. It's great. Highly recommend it. I love everything about it. Okay, we don't have much time here, so let me say this as fast as possible. Number 1, Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. Oh yeah, the best thing at the park. This is going to cut me off at any minute, so I'm going to just say it really fast. The secret song menu, I usually alternate between 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, and I forget what the other one is, like 7 something. But those are my picks. What you got to do to access those is just hold the Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit logo for 10 seconds and then let go of it, and then a menu comes up. You got to press OK, and then enter your 3-digit code that you should look up beforehand. But I love everything about this ride. I love it at night especially. It goes 65 miles per hour. It just, looking at it, incites this feeling of adrenaline that just, like, it gets my heart racing. And you can see it from just about anywhere in the park. So you know, like, it's coming, you know? So it's either like, oh man, I'm going to go on that tonight, or, yeah, remember when we went on that earlier? It was awesome. But the point is, whenever I look at it, it's just pure positivity that I'm looking at. It's obviously the most intense, thrilling ride there. You can get jostled around a little bit on it just because it goes really fast, so be warned about that if you're kind of sensitive to, you know, abrupt movements or anything. But for the most part, you should be fine. It's a roller coaster, and so it's cool. It's really the only outdoor ride at Universal Studios other than Woody Woodpecker's Nut House Coaster, but I'm not really counting that. 17 stories straight up. You go straight down, go almost upside down. You know the drill, but and all while listening to music and everything. So, and I think the whole theme of it is just really cool. It's a nice original theme. It's basically the Rock and Roller Coaster for Universal. So, I highly recommend that. Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit takes the cake. Anyway, I'm surprised this didn't cut me off.